Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our channel. I'm Vítor Santos Costa, and as you know, the passion for ornithology and the pursuit of excellence in bird breeding unite us here. But today, my friends, we're going to dive into a topic that many avoid, a dark secret that can decide the future of your aviary and the success of your name as a breeder. Let's talk about what I call the fatal flaw, ignoring recessive genetics. 1. The fatal flaw, ignoring recessive genetics. Most breeders make a critical, and for many, a fatal mistake. They only focus on what they can see. They buy the most beautiful bird, with the most vibrant colors and the most perfect plumage. But, and this is the shocking part, that external beauty can be a mask for a severe and silent genetic problem. We're talking about recessive genes, the invisible inheritance. You can have a male and a female who look perfect, but if both are carriers of the same recessive gene for a disease or a deficiency, their chicks will have a 25% chance of manifesting that problem. The failure of many high-performance aviaries doesn't come from external diseases or poor feeding, but from a genetic problem that was there, hidden, from the start. It's what we call the ghost problem. The breeder who ignores this reality is gambling with the future, risking all their effort, time, and money on something that can be wiped out in just one breeding season. This is the number one mistake. Your priority shouldn't just be beauty, but genetic health. Throughout this video, we're going to uncover how to identify these hidden dangers, how to trace golden bloodlines, and how to use science to your advantage to build a truly unbeatable aviary. Stick with me until the end, because this is knowledge that few share. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and leave a like to help us spread this vital information to more passionate breeders like us. Golden bloodlines. How to identify. Now that the initial shock has passed, let's talk about something positive and tangible. How to identify a golden bloodline. Believe me, they exist. They're not a myth. They are the result of years of hard work and rigorous selection. But how do you recognize them? The secret isn't in a single champion, but in consistency. A golden bloodline is one that produces high-quality birds season after season. Think of it as a champion factory, not a lucky fluke. The first thing to do is to look beyond the individual bird. Ask to see the siblings, the parents, and, if possible, the grandparents. A bird is truly valuable when its entire family demonstrates the same desirable traits. The same posture, the same intense color, the same robustness. The breeder who has a golden bloodline isn't afraid to show their entire aviary, because the quality is uniform, not isolated. On the other hand, a breeder who only has one spectacular bird to show, but not its relatives, might be hiding the fact that their bird is a genetic fluke. So, your mission is to find consistency. The next time you go to acquire a breeder, don't just fall in love with that one bird. Fall in love with its family, its breeding history, and, most importantly, the consistency with which it passes on its traits. Hybrid vigor, friend or foe? Now we come to one of the most controversial and misunderstood topics. Hybrid vigor. On the one hand, many breeders swear it's the key to robustness and health. And they're not wrong. When you cross birds from completely different bloodlines, the chicks can inherit the best of both worlds. They grow faster, are more resistant to diseases, and have a vitality that seems boundless. It's what happens when you cross a showline bird with a fieldline bird. The results are often spectacular. However, hybrid vigor is a double-edged sword, and this is where the controversy begins. What no one tells you is that this vigor is a genetic trick, a kind of bonus that is almost impossible to maintain in the next generation. If you breed the offspring of these genetically different parents, the hybrid vigor disappears, and you're left with a clutch that can be unpredictable. You might lose all the gains you made, and, even worse, you could end up with chicks that carry the defects of both bloodlines, without the vigor to compensate. Your strategy should be to use hybrid vigor with a clear purpose, to introduce specific traits into your aviary, such as a new mutation or a rare color. But don't rely on it to build your foundation. True long-term success comes from a solid, predictable bloodline where every bird is a sure bet, not a lottery ticket. Controlled inbreeding, the key to trait fixation. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, inbreeding. For most, this word conjures images of weakness and genetic problems. And for good reason, if it's done randomly and irresponsibly. But for top breeders, inbreeding is the most powerful tool in their arsenal. It's the genetic shortcut, a way to accelerate the progress of generations, fixing desired traits and revealing what's hidden in the DNA. Think of it as a living laboratory. By crossing parents with offspring or siblings, you are doubling up on genes. If the bird has an exceptional trait, like a rare color or a perfect head shape, your goal is for the chicks to inherit that trait from both sides of the family. The result is a bird that is homozygous for that trait, which means it will not only have the characteristic but also pass it on to 100% of its chicks. This is the path to creating a predictable bloodline. However, there is a huge and real risk. If your breeder is a carrier of a recessive gene for a disease, controlled inbreeding will bring that problem to the surface. That's why this method is a double-edged sword. You need knowledge, impeccable records, and, above all, the courage to cull the birds that reveal genetic problems. Don't be fooled. It's a high-risk, high-reward game, but it's the only way to master your bloodline. The science of mutations. Understanding genes. It's time to demystify the word mutation. For most people, it conjures images of abnormalities. But for us breeders, a mutation is an opportunity, a genetic treasure that can define our aviary. However, it's a minefield if not approached with knowledge. A mutation isn't just a different color. It's a change in a gene that affects pigment production or feather structure. And the big mistake is treating it as a simple, happy accident. You need to understand the types of inheritance. The mutation from green to blue, for example, is recessive. This means a blue bird has 2 genes for blue. But a bird that looks green can be a carrier of the blue gene. Just knowing a bird is blue isn't enough. You need to know if its parents were blue or if it's the result of a combination of carriers. Your breeding strategy will depend entirely on this knowledge. Other mutations, like Latinos, are sex-linked. This means their inheritance depends on whether the bird is male or female, crucial information that can confuse inexperienced breeders. The shocking truth is that many breeders lose years of work because they don't understand the basic science behind the mutations they are trying to fix. Therefore, your mission is to look beyond the color and learn the language of genes. Genetic map. Charting the future of your aviary. If you want to have a successful aviary, you need a tool that amateur breeders don't have, a genetic map. Ignoring this map is like trying to navigate without a compass. You might get lucky for a while, but sooner or later, you'll get lost. Most breeders, when buying a bird, only ask, "What mutation is this?" The elite breeder asks, "Who are the parents? Who are the grandparents? And what is their breeding history?" A genetic map is a detailed record that goes beyond a pedigree. It tracks not only the ancestors but also the results of each cross. It reveals what I call hidden carriers, those birds that look normal but carry genes for undesirable traits. It's a tool that allows you to predict the results of your crosses with chilling accuracy. By charting your map, you can avoid crossing 2 carriers of a genetic problem, saving yourself years of failure and frustration. Many breeders are hesitant to share this data, but the truth is, it's the gold of the business. Don't settle for superficial information. Ask for the complete data. Be the detective of your aviary, because knowledge is your greatest competitive advantage. Silent carriers. The hidden danger. This is, without a doubt, the most dangerous and underestimated topic in breeding. Have you ever seen a chick with a rare color or a fantastic mutation that, inexplicably, didn't survive? Or a bird that seemed perfect, but whose offspring had deformities? The culprit is, most of the time, the silent carrier. These are birds that, at first glance, don't show any problems but carry a recessive gene for an undesirable trait or, worse, for a lethal deficiency. The amateur breeder focuses on beauty. The elite breeder focuses on identifying and eliminating silent carriers. The only way to do this is through meticulous record-keeping and test crosses. For example, if you suspect a bird is a carrier of a recessive gene, you should cross it with another bird that already manifests the trait. If the offspring of the cross show the trait in question, your suspicion is confirmed, and you have to decide if it's worth keeping it in your aviary. It's a difficult decision, but it's the difference between a flock that thrives and one that withers away. Don't be fooled. Your most beautiful bird could be the biggest danger to your aviary. Silent carriers are like genetic time bombs. Your mission is to defuse them before they explode. Natural selection. How champions survive. Nature has its own merciless and effective way of selecting the best. In the wild, the weak simply don't survive. In bird breeding, we tend to interfere, to save the weakest chicks, to give them extra care in the hope that they will recover. And here's the controversial part. By doing this, we're undermining the genetics of our own aviary. We are allowing traits of weakness, which nature would reject, to be passed on to the next generation. It's a harsh truth, but natural selection should be a pillar of your breeding program. The chicks that develop fastest, that beg for food most strongly, that show the most robustness, are the ones with the genetics you want. The ones that struggle, that fall behind, or that show developmental problems, as much as it pains us, should be culled from the breeding flock. Their fragility could be a symptom of a genetic problem that, if passed on, will weaken your entire aviary. This isn't about cruelty. It's about responsibility. Your mission is to breed stronger, healthier, and more resilient birds. And sometimes that means making difficult and pragmatic, but necessary choices. Remember, an elite aviary is built on a foundation of strength, not misplaced compassion. The power of line breeding. Let's move to the next level. If inbreeding is the tool for fixing traits, line breeding is the strategy that sustains it. Most breeders cross parents with offspring and siblings without a plan, which leads to genetic ruin. Line breeding is the art of strengthening the genetics of a top breeder, your aviary's pillar, without falling into the dangers of blind inbreeding. The concept is simple but powerful. Instead of crossing siblings, you cross grandchildren of the same bird. For example, if you have an exceptional male, you cross him with several females, and then you cross his daughters with males from another bloodline. Then, you select the best resulting females and cross them back to the original father, or one of his brothers. The idea is to maintain the blood of your pillar in the aviary, but with a distance of 1 or 2 generations to minimize the risk of genetic defects. Line breeding requires patience, discipline, and most importantly, impeccable records. It's a long-term strategy, but it's what separates breeders who rely on luck from those who build a legacy. Don't be fooled. This is not a shortcut. It's a commitment to excellence. From DNA to trophy, long-term strategies. We've reached the final point, the culmination of all the knowledge I've shared with you. The goal of an elite breeder isn't just to win a trophy, but to create a flock so strong and consistent that trophies become an inevitable consequence. Your long-term strategy should be focused on 3 pillars: persistence, patience, and record-keeping. Persistence is your ability to make difficult choices. It's not getting attached to a bird that isn't contributing to the aviary, no matter how beautiful it is. It's the courage to cull birds that show genetic defects. Patience is the understanding that building a top-tier aviary doesn't happen in 1 or 2 seasons. It takes years of work, learning, and, yes, failures. True success is building a solid genetic foundation. And finally, record-keeping is your legacy. Every note, every observation, every cross you write down is a brick in the construction of your knowledge. The breeder who keeps a complete record doesn't get lost. They have their map, their guide, their secret. A breeder's journey is a marathon, not a sprint. The difference between an amateur and a professional isn't just in the results, but in the mindset. Stop thinking in terms of accidents, and start thinking about strategy. Your success isn't just in the birds you breed, but in the science you apply. And if this information has helped you think about your aviary differently, I ask you to subscribe to the channel and leave a like to help us spread this knowledge. Share this video with another breeder who might benefit from this information, because our community grows with the sharing of knowledge.